Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Reese. If this is your first time, welcome to my little art studio. So this week I wanted to revisit something that I had done a video on before, which is your art style. I've noticed recently that a lot of people have been taking a look at that particular video, but I thought I wanted to do something a little bit updated on my thoughts, since I've had more time to think about that conundrum, that puzzle that we all face as artists, having to deal with our art style and how to find it. So today that's what I'm going to be talking about. A, do you need an art style? And B, if you do, if you feel like you do, then I have some suggestions on how to find it. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about today is, can you have more than one style? So that's the topic for today. And because somebody was asking about Scoobs, they wanted to see him. So here he is. He's back. Ornery as always. But yeah, so that's our topic for today. So let's get started. So the first question we want to ask ourselves today is, what artist really inspires us? Who, if we could, would we emulate? So the first place I think you should start with is maybe your own art book collection. I know for me that's true. If you look at my book collection, I bet you would know right off the bat who I probably would like to emulate the most. What artist I'd like to paint like, or maybe there's something about their work that I myself draw like or have a similarity to. If you were here and you could really look through my book collection, you'd probably know right off the bat who I really love the most and who probably I'm inspired by the most. And when I say inspire, I don't mean just inspire as far as inspires you to be more creative, but someone you would really like to emulate, or someone you would like to draw more like. But I also want to ask you, do you really need to have an art style? Now, I think this is a question that we all struggle with. I feel like personally, if you're not actually trying to become a professional artist, you don't really need an art style. Your creative journey might just be that, one of creativity, one of experimentation, one that helps you and your spirit just express itself. However, if you feel like you need an art style, I'm going to make a suggestion today how that can be achieved. So first off, going back to my bookshelf, and if you have a bookshelf, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Just take a look at it. You probably know right off the bat who kind of sings to you the most. Who are your favorite go-tos? Take your books out and lay them out on a table and stack them in different categories. You might want one for impressionists. If you love comics, maybe comic book artists, or if you love illustrations, birds, like whatever, nature artists, whatever it is, lay everything out. Those who speak to you the most, those that you would like to emulate if you could improve your skill to a certain level, who would you be most like? Or maybe you even feel like you kind of already draw like a particular artist already. So they already speak to you. You see something of yourself or something of them in yourself, or vice versa. And if you don't have a book collection, sit down and just think of some artists that you really love the most, the people that come to the forefront of your mind. Now, this is why I don't want you to go back and start browsing on the internet or looking at your Pinterest board or looking at your collections maybe in Instagram or anything like that, because it should be somebody that's at the forefront of your mind, someone that you already gravitate towards and would like your work to look more like in the long run. So with those people in mind, also put them in categories. Are they comic book artists? Are they illustrators? Are they just designers, representational artists, impressionists, whatever it be, all the different various categories. See if you can make lists on a piece of paper and see what you come up with. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get some note cards or a piece of masking tape. And I want you to write down the categories that you already came up with and put them on the table. And make it so that you can create little stacks for each category. Then taking your own work, take each piece and start laying them down in each of those categories. So then at the end of that, what you might see is a trend where one category has more than other categories. Maybe there's a couple. So with that answered, what you're probably looking at that point is that most of your work tends to be a particular style. And so what that's going to tell you is probably what your work is probably the most like. The only thing that might be a caveat is that if you're trying to put yourself, to pigeonhole yourself into something like MAGA illustrations or something specific, maybe you've done a lot of it, but maybe really that's not your strength. So take a look at that as well. And I think that information alone is going to help you get an idea of what your style actually is or where you should be going. But by putting your work into these categories, yes, you might see that you have more work because you have been trying to pigeonhole yourself into a particular category. However, what you might find out is that your strengths are really in other categories. Maybe it's not the amount, but maybe the work is better in the other categories. And it might help you actually create an idea of what you should be focusing on. Now, the caveat to that is that if your life goal is to become a particular kind of illustrator, then you're going to have to force yourself to do that. But it may be more of a challenge moving forward. So there is that. However, the hardest thing is you're probably going to need time. You're just going to need time to really see what your work looks like, how it unfolds over a period of time, where you lean. But these categories at least can get you started, kind of help you figure out where you need to go or what area you will best be suited to go towards. Like for me, I like realism, but one thing that I've had to learn over time is that I tend to be a bit impatient as a person, and I don't want to spend hours and weeks drawing and painting on the exact same thing. So that's just me. So I know that striving to become a super hyper realist type of person, or even a very highly detailed representational artist, it's not my strength. It's not well suited for me because I just don't have the patience, and I would not have the joy doing that kind of work. I would get burned out really, really quickly. But I can do it. I've done it, but it does not bring me pleasure. So that's another thing. You want to lean towards a style that brings you pleasure the most and brings you joy, because otherwise you're just not going to do it. The final question I have to ask is, can you have more than one style? The quick answer is yes. Although most people professionally would tell you no, that you should be a particular style. But most artists have more than one style, one specific style. Some people paint in a very representational style or a realistic style, but then maybe they'll have like some illustration type work on the side that they do. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to share with you an example of that today. I myself have struggled with this question for years, but as time has gone on, I know where I lean the best. I like something where the lines are a bit blurred between representational, realistic type work and impressionism. That's my favorite style, whether I'm doing watercolors or oils or whatever. But I have always doodled or done little illustrations on the side, just for my own pleasure, stuff from my imagination, that sort of thing. So I know that about myself now, but it's taken a very, very long time to get okay with that. I used to be very stressed out about it. I've even approached a professional artist about this, and he was not very encouraging or helpful. Some artists, believe it or not, even people that you love or are inspired by, sometimes they're not very helpful or encouraging. They may not want to be. Sometimes I think that they actually don't want to be honest about this topic because they want to seem very focused, because being focused and having a particular look for your body of work sells. So there is that. There is also a bit of competition that goes on in the art world. Although I think most people realize at this point the best thing you can do is to share yourself with the world and your knowledge, and that actually helps you. So if you ever approach a professional artist, don't be discouraged if you hear something that you don't really want to hear. Today I'm going to share with you an artist I love a lot. He's an illustrator. His name is Aaron Wiesenfeld. Aaron started off his career in comics, being a comic book illustrator. I believe for Batman is what he used to draw. But he eventually got out of drawing comics and started doing his own work. His paintings are still very illustrative in its style, and they're very moody and from his imagination, but he also still doodles and does little illustrations in pen and ink on notepads. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of that today. This is Aaron Wiesenfeld, his original book called The Well. I think that there was a poem that someone wrote called The Well, he illustrated. And for some reason he ended up using that title as the title of his first book about himself and his body of work. Since then he's published a separate book called Travelers, and I have that as well. But this is my favorite book, to be honest with you. And this is my very favorite image that he's ever done. I love a lot of his work. It's very illustrative and moody. Again, I keep going back to kind of a moody kind of work. I love Andrew Wyeth and his moodiness, and the moodiness of Aaron's work, even though it's more illustrative. So I'm just going to do a flip through of Aaron's book, and hopefully the glare is not too bad. Now that was completely different, a lot more representational in style. I think it's when he was really trying to figure out what he wanted to do, possibly. When I look at Aaron's work, though, I do see maybe a little bit of maybe an influence by John Curran, if you know who that is. But his work is really gorgeous. I love it, at least. I have a print of this girl here. Fish Gatherer is the title of that. But there's aspect of his work that I see, I guess because I'm a draftsman, and so is Aaron. He's a draftsman. So is Andrew Wyeth, also a draftsman. Another artist that I love a lot, modern day artist, is Julio Reyes. I may have mentioned him in the past or earlier. All those artists I lean more towards as a draftsman in my core being of who I am. But these are some small sketches that he did. Even this pre-sketch for this winter cabin image that's on the cover of this book. And so he goes back and forth between doing these pencil or charcoal type drawings and paintings like that. Charcoal on paper. This one, which I love. And a highly detailed, this is called The Well. This is an illustration from The Well. I wouldn't be surprised if The Well was meant to be possibly the cover of this book, but it ended up being the winter cabin, which it's so beautiful. So that's that book. And then the other book, the second book, which I like the other book the best, to be honest with you. And it came with this print. The size of it is nice. But he started doing these pen and ink drawings. These are about 11 by 13, 14 by 11. So we did a lot of those. And then he started doing stuff on postcards as well. But he'll do large paintings like this, and then he'll turn right around and then also do these little post-it note sketches and sell those as well. So I feel like you can do that. You can paint a particular way, but then use maybe another style that you have as an add-on or as an addition to enhance your own work. So yeah, his work is very beautiful, very moody, lovely, lovely work. So that's the work of Aaron Wiesenfeld, and I thought that that might be inspirational for you to see if you're struggling with your style and how maybe you can utilize multiple styles to your advantage. So these are some examples of some paintings that I've done over the years. These are more representational pieces with a lot of detail and time put into them. Actually, this piece is a little bit of a combination of representational / a little bit of impressionism. There's lots of really strong strokes on here and thick paint in places, but it's still pretty detailed still. A couple of other pieces of work that show my more detailed work are this image I did of Scooby, and this painting I did showing this lady holding a peach. And you probably have seen this gourd that I've done before. Pretty detailed, and this bird's nest that I've done. Both of these are pretty representational type of styles, and it's not that I don't mind doing these, but I'd like a little bit more of a combination of impressionism thrown into this moving forward. That's my ultimate goal, and I think that's where I think I at least know where I'm leaning now. And then you can see how in my work out in the field, because there is the absence of time. This is, if you saw my sketchbook, you may have seen this image before. I've done it several times. I've done it in pencil. I've done it in my nature journal, which you can see here in a second probably. And then I did it for my sketchbook challenge in watercolor. So I've done it several times, but this one was actually done in the field. So it's very loose and impressionistic because you just don't have the luxury of time, but I did like how it turned out. So I think this is more speaks of me now. I think my body of work is starting to speak of me more and who I am and what I like doing the best. And so this is my nature journal, and I'm actually going to be doing a whole tour. I'm going to be doing a whole YouTube video on my nature journal, and probably going to be doing that pretty soon. I've been promising it for a while, but now that fall's coming back to Florida, a bit of cooler weather's coming back to Florida as well, I'll be able to get outside a little bit more, and I hope to share some of that with you guys. But my work in the field was always very quick. There's just no time in the field to do much. You're doing quick studies. And I never really, when I first started doing these, even up until the last painting I did, I never really did these with the intention of sharing them with anybody. They were just quick glimpses of a moment in time. And I often like to make notes on the day and the sounds that I'm hearing and how I'm feeling and that sort of thing. So you can see how this overlaps with me going out in the field and doing the same tree in the same loose impressionist style. So I can't tell you how much I love this particular image, and I can't tell you what it is about it. I just love it so much. Clearly, I keep revisiting it. So I think through all of this, I see where I'm going as an artist. It's taken a long time, but I wish that I had done the steps that I mentioned before. I think I would have found my way a lot sooner. And if I listened to people less too, like I said, when you hear an artist say something, someone who's a professional working artist, we often put too much into what professional people say sometimes. But what we have to realize is that professional artists, all people, all professionals, everyone, we're all people. And we all have our own insecurities and motivations and things that lead us to say and do certain things, regardless of where we are on our journey or how many people look up to us even. So take that with a grain of salt for what it's worth. But you see, here's some more just regular quick watercolors that I did with no great agenda, just me playing in my sketchbook. But now, just because I want to show you a glimpse of my illustration. So I have always illustrated, and I thought at one time maybe I should be an illustrator. I have illustrated. I have done some illustrations for television, and I've done illustrations for graphic design, designing packages and brochures and advertisements and all sorts of things. But I finally realized it's not my strength. It's not always my desire. I just like doing what I like to do when I want to do it. And that's what often my little sketchbooks with my quick doodles with no references often are. They're just quick little doodles of ideas that I have. And they don't really mean anything. They have no purpose. They're fun in the moment when I have an idea. So, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's my strength. I do like doing them nonetheless. They're good for me. They're good for my soul to have these little places to play and doodle. But I would say that it's not my heart's desire. It's just something I like to do. And I could see how maybe if I was doing something a little bit on the side, that would be okay to add it into my professional portfolio, whether I'm actually painting and selling paintings, watercolors, paintings, whatever. And then you could do cards or other little things on the side. And that's what I've seen other artists do. So I'm not saying that I have all the answers. I just think that I have an answer that at least best works for me. Okay guys, I'm going to take a quick moment here to wrap this video up, especially before Scooby gets too ornery, and say I hope that you found something informative or something inspiring in today's video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell for future notifications, and leave us a comment. Let Scooby and I know whether or not you made it this far, even if you're just leaving an emoji. And we hope that you have a beautiful, blessed, and creative week ahead, and we will see you next time, guys. All right. Hope you guys are having a beautiful fall if you're here in the Northern Hemisphere. All right. Bye. Annyeong. Goodbye, guys. Say goodbye. Tweet, tweet. You're so ornery. You're the orneriest bird, you know? You are.